Okay. We're live.
Okay, I call this meeting, committee of the whole to order at 7:01 PM. May we have a roll call, please?
Jennifer Glickly. Here. Chris Hamilton.
Here.
Erica Peterson.
Here.
Jillian Phelps. Here. John Ruggles.
Here.
Brad Sketchum.
Here.
And Lisa Wooster.
All right, if you'll now please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Ms. Sully, do we have any public comments?
We do not.
Excellent. Do we have any addition of information or discussion items for the board? Okay, agenda stands. Information and discussion, additional copiers. Carly, are you taking that one? Or-
I will take that one, and I will just, for the new board, a little bit of background. For anything under information and discussion that will be presented to you for the first time that's specific to business office items. I put a brief summary in the business office report, so you get a little bit of an overview before the meeting. What I'm thinking we'll do going forward is I will chunk anything that's business related together, so we can just jump to the business office report and it flows a little bit better. But yes, I will take the lease for additional copiers. So, earlier this year, the district entered a 60-month, copier lease with Canon. So this was to replace aging copiers that we had at both school buildings. We had a goal, or we have a goal of removing individual printers in various spaces throughout both buildings to reduce the cost of toner. Part of that goal then is replacing those printers with some additional copiers. So since the beginning of this fiscal year, which started July 1st through April, we've spent over $17,000 on toner alone on printers. We reached out to Canon and asked for a quote for 2 additional color copiers, 1 for each building, 2 additional black and white copiers, 1 for each building, and printers that will be tied to the Canon network for each of the STEM labs. So a black and white printer for each STEM lab and a color printer for each STEM lab. And their quote for a 54-month lease is $11,244 per year. So in addition to what we're paying. So essentially, we would be removing a number of printers, replacing copiers to experience a cost savings on toner. And also what this does is it gives a little bit of a reprieve to our tech department, as they're not needing to go and replace toner on a regular basis in all of these printers. So in the next board meeting, Dr. Lind and I are asking the board to approve the additional contract for 2 color copiers, 2 black and white copiers, 2 black and white printers, and 2 color printers divided across the 2 schools. Any
And the
questions?
lease is toner included in the lease?
Yes, and maintenance.
So there's no
Staples.
cost per page or anything like that for the printers?
There is a click cost, that in your board packet, there should have been a Canon contract and it, okay, perfect. And it does list the click cost. The other thing that this service provides us, or moving to Canon, is it gives us a report of who's printing essentially and what's being printed. So it kind of helps us manage the printing and copying overall.
Do we have any sort of analysis on the click cost versus what we were paying for toner previously? Like, I just don't know if we have any notion of how much volume of printing we're actually doing on page count basis.
That I'm actually not sure if we could even pull that off of all of the individual printers that we have. So these are in a number of classrooms. and-
They're not networked.
Yeah.
Necessarily to
Okay.
any centralized location. Now, the cannons will.
The new ones, yeah.
Right,
The new ones
So-
will give us that.
The new ones will
Exactly.
give us the information, the old ones did not, they're separated.
I-
They're still networked to the internet, but they weren't networked to any software.
Right. So I was just trying to figure out if there was any way to assess the $17,000
Yeah, we talked
savings on
about-
annual toner versus what we're gonna be paying per page. Or, whatever the cost of making.
So we've talked about that, there's not a clear way to do it, but the best we can do is Carly looked up all the toner that we've spending $17,000 on toner for the current printers. We can reduce that. That in itself would pay for. That's just toner. That doesn't include maintenance or.
Yeah, so we're looking at almost $6,000 a year savings on the toner, and we're hoping that we're gonna see something close to that in per page cost.
How many printers are you gonna be removing out of classrooms or academic location?
We
I,
don't have a number.
You don't know how many? I'm just trying to think about the people who are used to having them nearby, the
Mhm.
transition that they're gonna need to make. And how many of those people it's gonna impact.
Right, so that's part of the locations, we don't want them to travel too far. Part of the thought process was these now have, of course, codes on them so that you can send your jobs and go get it and pick it up. It's not gonna be as convenient as having it in the classrooms, there's still gonna be some out locations until they die. So,
So we're expecting some toner costs to continue, or are you guys gonna stop
Some.
replacing toner?
no,
some will
we're,
continue.
so it won't be a direct $6,000 savings.
Gotcha.
There will definitely be a savings and. When we last did it, this was a long time ago, so. I don't know what the comparative now, it was 7 cents a copy per printer, basically. It's what the going rate was, or what we figured for color. It was about 3 cents for black and white. These are fractions of pennies for color and fractions of pennies for black and white on the click cost, but we're paying for that.
We are, the other
We're
thing
paying
that,
through the lease, so it's hard to compare directly.
Yeah, it looks like it's somewhere around. On the copiers, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of. 4/10 of a cent per black and white copy and 3 cents for color, but the printers are a little more, I think. So it's not bad.
yes. Yes, the other thing that we can't, I don't think we would be able to estimate is the amount of time the tech department would save.
Yeah.
With the maintenance of the existing printers.
And this is like a 54-month contract. I guess the question would be, is there any way to assess this along the way? Or we're just gonna assess it at the end of 54 months. And compare how that was to the printers. Is that the plan?
Yeah, and the reason it's 54 months, so when we started the contract, I believe we're 6 months into it, so they're essentially just adding these devices and machines onto the existing contract. Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, salary rate sheet, Dr. Lee.
Okay. So, we can discuss specifics during closed session when we talk about going to closed session later. But we have our salary rate sheet. We talked about it last month, but to bring everybody else up to speed. We're generally giving a 4% increase to match our teachers for our non-certified staff. And then doing some market adjustments as well, so. We can go over that in more detail later, but that'll be on for next Monday's approval.
Questions? All right, Ms. Kraft, treasurer's bond.
Okay, treasurer's bond. So every year, the board is required to sign off on a school district treasurer's bond. It's essentially an insurance policy that protects the district from losses against certain financial circumstances. So this is driven by the school code. The actual bond came in the mail later today. It will be provided in next week's board packet for your signature.
No questions on that? Continue on down the line. With a resolution of transfer, authorizing and directing the transfer of interest.
Okay, and so Also, if we want to click on the business office report too, that might show a little bit of information. The school code allows for us to transfer interest out of various funds. If for the new board members, in front of you are the tax levy presentation and the budget presentation. I just put these in front of your seats just as a reference, but as I talk through a lot of financial things, I use words like funds. And so the reason I wanted to provide you with these two documents that you will see the presentation when we actually do the budget and the levy later in the fiscal year is it provides vocabulary and a breakout of what these actual funds are. If you're just interested in learning more, feel free to recycle. Feel free to use them in a bonfire if you'd like, but whatever, you know, you need, that information's there. If you have questions at any time, feel free to reach out. But we use something that's called fund accounting. So all of our revenues and expenditures are broken into 9 funds. Basically, it's an accounting structure. We are allowed to transfer interest out of various funds into the fund that the school board would deem most in need. So what we're asking the board to approve in the next board meeting is transferring interest out of the working cash fund. Working cash is essentially our rainy day fund. We're accruing interest on it in our bank account, kind of like a savings account. We've accrued interest. We're asking to move that interest out into the education fund, as well as move the interest accrued out of debt services into the education fund, because if we don't move the money out by the end of the fiscal year, which ends June 30th, it's stuck in that fund going forward, whereas we could move it out now and put it towards educational needs. Any questions on that?
Okay, thank you. Adam, are you covering the cartwheel?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Overview of cartwheel. This is my presentation. I'll give you guys a visual. So earlier this, so the Lake County directors meet once a month, and one of the directors from Lake County districts highly recommend Cartwheel, brought this company in, presented to all of us directors earlier this year. And we're very interested in learning more as a district. So then our social workers and our psychologists reached out to Cartwheel. So we are interested in entering a contract with Cartwheel for next school year. So we would like to just give you guys an overview. This is the slide deck from Cartwheel themselves. So I'm presenting somebody else's slides. So we do my best to give it justice, but the mental impacts of student outcomes, there's significant impacts for all kids, and certainly connect with those. So every student deserves mental health support. So here's some of the highlights of Cartwheel. No wait list, regardless of insurance, at convenient time, preferred language, and take that as best practice. So that is across the United States. Dark green are the states where they're actively providing services, and the light green functioning their program in most states. 185 school systems across the United States, 200 licensed clinicians, and 1 million kids enrolled. Here's the state of Illinois. School districts currently over 100,000 students enrolled. Plus licensed clinicians. No wait lists, that is one of the big pieces that caught our attention. Certainly we struggle with finding resources for families where they have to wait months to get in to see a provider. So they have one-on-one evidence-based therapy, psychiatric evaluations, medication management, and outpatient programs. Parent guide that will help you navigate through this role. Therapy and category. So child psychiatrists are on their team. They have licensed therapists, case managers. So those are, they will, each family that is referred, each student that is referred will get a case manager to help them navigate the Cartwheel company system.
And we as a school district will be provided a clinical program manager, that will be our liaison, our contact. That will help us with professional development. But also just be right there beside us, helping us. Pastors. Some highlights again, the way this. All insurances. Family supports, and bilingual case managers. Family supports the one-on-one bilingual case managers. For every family that we mentioned earlier. School support program manager that would help us now navigate. And then we would track all of this through the portal. We would identify students and why they were referred to this program and their success rate in the program over time so that we can analyze the data to determine how to best move forward. So the impact engagements, that first is the percent of student body referred for services. So without Cartwheel, the school system would refer less than 5% of it. Student body. Cartwheel's number is 35% of the student body are referred for services to the public. 1% of referrals completed in the first session. So it's interesting development. Average number of completed sessions. So with our dealers, the average number of sessions completed of therapy sessions is 12. What's your this? Seven days with 7 days with time to access support. 3 to 6 months. There are statistics that they stand by and they're very proud of. And 3% of students show significant improvement in anxiety and depression. 3% of parents recommend Cartwheel and 9% of school system remove their contracts. Top stop there.
Thank you.
For us to pay them for their services. The smallest amount of referrals that we could purchase at a launch in year for next year would be between 0 and 25 referrals. So that's what we're looking to purchase is 25 referrals for next year. We are working as a team internally to determine appropriate entrance criteria into this. So we want to be clear on how we will refer students and that both schools will be operating on the same entrance criteria. We have a lot of great ideas, a lot of systems in place that will fit my students through our tier 3 wraparound intervention, for example, where students get access to through that intervention. We have students who need to provide threat assessments, either harm themselves or harm to others. That could be a way that students can identify and need them to refer them to Cartwheel. Services. Social workers, our psychologists, our administrators to make those decisions.
I have a number of them.
So do I.
Can I start? First, well, the basic question is how would it work? Students feeling down, they go to a teacher, the parent calls in. How do we even start this? How does it work?
Yeah, so we have a tier 3 level intervention called wraparound. We identify students through data points. Going through our multi-tiered system systems of support. So they qualify for tier 2 levels of intervention first. We have a number of levels of intervention within that tier. If they're not successful, then they qualify for tier 3. So that's a wraparound intervention that we can go into for sure if you guys would like more detail there. But students, if we identify that they're struggling in school, at home and in the community, then we would essentially could refer them to this resource.
So we're setting them up with psychologists or whatever.
Yeah, so if we would refer this resource, then they would be set up with a case manager. Who would then work with the family to identify what supports are available.
Well, that answers my second one. So you definitely aren't gonna refer them without talking to the family first, right?
Family helps guide this process,
Okay.
but the case manager will canvas.
I'm just gonna make something up. Let's say, a student is cutting themselves. And they don't want their parents to know. Are they allowed to access this system without their parent knowing?
No, so we would initiate a threat assessment protocol typically first, which is our process, it's a very detailed process on how we identify the students, the harm to themselves or others. We can share that protocol with you too. We work on it every year when it's happening. And it's a very good process where we identify students and then we go through a series of screening process with the student. Through that process, we then identify them at a level of risk.
And the parents are with you all along through this.
So then we notify the parents that
Okay, so you do the assessment and then based on the assessment, you bring the family. Okay,
so
and the cost is no cost to the student,
no cost
to the family.
and they recognize all insurance.
And if they get in a program like that in middle school, and they're in 8th grade, and they like the program is helping, do we have any sort of, does that carry on into high school, or is this just a Milburn thing?
I think it could, it just depends on the student and their individual needs.
But the high school would probably have to be signed up with car building too. Probably. Or
I
no?
think their access to us, the one-time referral access would give them access to the system. So I think typically on average, a student would attend 12 sessions, like therapy sessions. That's on the average.
Okay, and this is only for the students, not for like teachers and the family members
It is
either.
offered to staff as well,
It's
so it is offered to families.
Okay, and the last question I have is what's the end goal? Like, this isn't like a long-term thing, right? Or is this, does it try to move them into a long-term thing? Does it try to wean them off this, or we kind of make that up as you,
I think just
with
depends on the
everybody
student and
together?
what they need. I think the purpose of this is faster access to mental health supports for our kids and families. They're trying to help kids that by showing us they need a high level of support. And it's frustrating sometimes if we're trying to help navigate families and they can't really see somebody for a number of months. So this would be quick access, 7 to 10 days worth of time. It's pretty remarkable.
How long have they been around? This program?
It's a good question. I don't know. I don't know how many years in the ground.
Oh, I have written.
So is this like online therapy? So it's not in person? And then does it happen during the school day?
So their hours are from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. They're 7 days a week. That was days. So there are- that's, what we do is we just work with the family. We work with the case manager and do the assignments and determine when the best time for that would be. We are not going to say during the school day. We don't want to interrupt their right to that place, which is important for everybody that day. So we would probably work to with the families. There have been times though where it just made sense. to do it during the day, but during the time it also made sense.
Because I guess that would be my concern is, if there's someone in Indiana who's providing services to a child here. And, if they end up in a crisis situation and it's here at school, but if you're in therapy, there's nobody else in the room with the child because the therapist is there and there's confidentiality. So that I worry about the safety, especially a tier 3 kid, because they're already, gone through all the other services that we have, that if we provide that here and if something triggers the child and they're in a room with someone online, and there's no one in the room to help them. Has the district looked at, the service that the county provides?
Never go do that.
Yeah,
We do also utilize. It's been great. It's been a great resource. We will continue with that.
okay.
That's not, those are, that's a method to, help families find those therapists, which are all, different sort of companies themselves, right? This is the company
Direct
that
access.
provides, all of their own therapists.
And then I saw that, and you had stated that families would have to use their insurance for this. So if it's something that we're telling them they should do, and they have to use their own insurance for it, is there,
I don't think we would ever be in a position where we could tell them they have.
so it's just, if you would like to,
This is a
an
resource that we
option.
have.
Okay,
These are the conversations we've been having. We notice, we recognize that the need for some significant support. And there's a service that we provide. We must engage in this or else.
so it's really the families have to be on board with this in order for it to be successful.
We're providing the opportunity.
That could maybe be a one way to alleviate the concern you were having is we don't do solo, that maybe with a family member always, so you do have someone in the room.
Well, sometimes though, that can be a little tricky because
Yeah.
the family member could be the reason why they're
Yeah.
that way. So, kids won't open up if their abuser is in the room or, whoever.
I think there's definitely a liability concern if the student's gonna be doing it solo
Yeah.
on school grounds, right?
Yeah, yeah. That we would definitely. That's our. As a staff, we rarely done.
Is the treatment itself, would that be kept totally separate from the school? I mean, if the school is facilitating the sessions, it isn't like the family has to sign a waiver. That the information can be shared with the school. It really is true therapy, independent. Okay.
We can track the data, why the student was referred to the program, they would report back to us on success. The case manager would keep us. On that. Oftentimes we talk to therapists, we give them some information sign, we talk to therapists all the time. That team, right, so that we're supporting the student at school, that's everything.
You sort of answered that, I'm not sure I heard that in this question, but so it's not something they would want to use it, so we would never. Like, okay, students acting out for 2 weeks, well, you're not gonna be suspended if you go into this program, it's not one of those.
This is just purely a service we're looking to offer our families potentially. And so you mentioned the lowest tier is the 1 to 25 referrals that we'd be potentially signing up for. And obviously, it looks like you can add additional referrals. I think it's per $1,000 per student from there on. Do we have any sort of estimate on how many students, given the past handful of years of data, that we think we would be referring to a program like this? Because obviously, if you're not referring more than 12 or 13, the rate per student is higher than the incremental cost.
Yeah. So we're engaged in discussions about that, right? We just want to go with the lowest number. We do feel like we're going to utilize all of the referrals.
And if we utilized all those and wanted more, obviously, then we need additional funds to do that. So we'd be coming back to a conversation there at some point.
So again, we're going to strictly stick to the entrance criteria around public threat assessments and our tier 3 background intervention. That's the one just going to get really clear with that. And I mean, the social workers and psychologists are really important. So this will be on the agenda to discuss those entrance criteria. How is it going? As with any entrance and exit criteria for any tier level of support, every team needs to go back and continue to refine that entrance criteria and talk about how it's going. There are times where students qualify for tier 2 levels of support, and we realize not enough students are qualifying for that level of support. So then we got to kind of revamp our entrance criteria so more students have access to that information. Same kind of idea, but we would have to work through it. That's why we want to do the least amount of first year, so that we can kind of work through that.
And do you anticipate any issues with utilizing the 25 referrals and wanting more, but then, trying to pick and choose which students you're gonna refer to this?
I think 25 referrals would be a very good start for us. And I don't see us running through those schools. We will, I think, do a very good job sticking to the 25. That's what. There's some times where we might refer and or suggest a referral to a family where they don't do it.
Right. And that doesn't
That's
count
okay.
against us if the family doesn't accept it.
Yeah, that's okay. Then we just say, and then we just try to navigate them through referral GPS and try to, provide them resources that we have, just the resources that we provide families.
Mhm.
We will just continue to, manage through that and work through that.
And you guys have any concerns related to, and I don't know how much, how much of this we see currently. The telehealth aspect of this versus, in-person sort of sessions, I think we've been trying to set people up with locally.
Yeah.
I know the telehealth outcomes aren't as great in this space, so I don't know if we have any concerns about that. I know they probably have lots of metrics that look great. I'm just not sure if we have anything that we
That's a
look
great
at
question.
internally for this.
Thanks. We have a number of students though who receive therapy through. I'd say, certainly my perspective being in pursuing somebody that seems to be better, but I'm on Zoom quite often for meetings and I have meetings and it's almost just as.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't looked at the data recently, but I know there was some data related to younger people in therapy having, more shift in outcomes from telehealth versus in-person on adults.
Great question. Bring something. Pay close attention to.
That's a one-year contract.
Do you know other schools that are using it? Do they love it?
Yeah, District 112. Director there is the one who brought this program to that director. So they did something similar. They purchased the lowest amount. They did 50 referrals in their first year. They're much bigger this year. They did 50 referrals and they worked through that first year and realized quickly that the following year, they just had 200 referrals the next year. So that's just the process they went through. And kind of mirroring that process a little bit, just like the first launch of the year idea. I haven't asked other districts in that cohort, how many of them are now utilizing Pardue.
200 is a lot. How many kids live in the district? So if they got thousands, so only 5.
Because it's a unit district, so it has a height.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what percentage of their population is being referred, I guess, right? To consider what our ultimate cost might be if we really like the program. Do those costs, like, in this plan, it looks like it's $500 per referral and we're 125. I'm assuming that price comes down if you're buying in bulk more referrals.
But if you go over 25 and you.
It's 1,000 each.
Yeah.
Yeah, currently, I know.
It doubles.
I was just curious how much those come down to, if you get something like 200, if that's down to half that cost, or if it's per referral, if it's.
Or build a rollover into the contract. If you don't use them, they roll over into the.
Yeah, so Carly and I met with our lawyer and worked through the contract, a lot of the questions from our lawyer. After we discussed that.
I mean, obviously, they're gamifying it a little bit in that way, right, where the referrals cost is gonna depend on how much we're actually utilizing the program, and underutilization benefits them.
Do we have money for it in the budget?
So Adam and I were discussing using Medicaid funds.
Okay.
So we do have Medicaid funds next year to cover the initial amount of this contract, the 1-year contract. So long as we have Medicaid funds, which we should, right now, it's looking like they will be here.
And I know you mentioned that they obviously have lots of metrics that they'd like to give us, following whatever we do with this. Do we have any internal metrics that are comparative to those in some way that we can compare our current options to the outcomes here we're seeing for families in any sort of, measurable way, or is this going to be a very subjective sort of?
Do we have data currently that we can?
Yeah, that we can stack
measure
up against their metrics,
Against-
right?
We do. We have our assessment protocol and the number of our assessments that we've conducted over the last couple of years, so we can track that. See where that data goes. We're early on in our tier 3 wraparound intervention, so we are building that right now. So it's gonna be hard to say, and compare that data to whether this program is helping our students, as far as wraparound goes, so that might be tricky. But we do look at, am I answering your question?
I think somewhat, yeah, I mean, obviously, I think it's gonna be a very difficult question to answer, right? They're gonna measure metrics specific to their program and outcomes from it. And I don't know that we're going to have anything directly comparable to say we improved X% in these
There's
things, but
certainly a lot of data.
if we're measuring it
Yeah,
based
often.
on severity or numbers of intervention, then
So we can look at absenteeism, we can look at the absence rates, right, to see if this early intervention, this significant, high level intervention can help students, you know, because there are students I can think of right now who have attendance concerns for sure that this could also support. So we can track that data, we track referral data all the time, so that we can measure that against some of this. And our just tier 2 level interventions too, there's just so much data that we look at often, and we can see if that data is tracking that over time. Students getting more. support, that's good.
And provide it's not gonna cost our local taxpayers
Right.
anything, so.
right, if it's coming out of the
It's
medical.
a win. Win.
It's an interesting program.
Any questions on that, comments? All right, scrap financial rhythm, please.
Okay, so, just, oops.
It's there, I just have to put it public.
All right, so this is a slide that summarizes the annual financial rhythm of a school district. So in the core of the graphic are some gears they're turning. They're depicting the constant internal activities that are going on that define a financial plan in a year. So those activities are setting goals, assessing needs, stakeholder dialogue, reviewing goals, reviewing needs throughout the year and adjusting the financial plan as needed. The outer part of the graphic is essentially a calendar. July is at the top because the fiscal year runs July 1 days through June 30th of the following year. And what this calendar is doing, it's basically dictated by federal and state law. It's capturing the due dates of all of our financial reports. So the way it starts out in July, the start of our fiscal year, Dr. Linda and I are reviewing the tentative budget that we'll present to the board in August. School code requires this school budget to be adopted by September 30th. So the board will see the tentative budget in August, adopt the budget in September. We move on to October, November. This is when we work on the tax levy. So the tax levy is, we may have mentioned this earlier, but it's basically our main source of local revenue. It's the property tax dollars that we ask for from property tax holders to pay for the majority of our expenses. That levy initially goes to the board in November and is required to be approved by the last Tuesday in December. We also do a mid-year budget check in December, January. So now that we know by that time frame when with the bulk of our revenue is coming from tax dollars, we start working on the budget in January through May. This would be the budget for the following school year. Again, we're working with the stakeholders. That would be anyone who has a significant chunk of the budget. So principals, the tech department, the building and grounds department, curriculum goals that we're setting for the upcoming year. We're taking all of that information and applying it to next year's budget. We're also getting a lot of information from our vendors. So our health insurance provider, our risk insurance provider, they're providing the rate increases for the following year. That goes into the budget. Also during that time frame, this January to May, if a union contract was up, we would be going through negotiations and getting that information and putting it into the budget. During this time frame, we're also assessing the current budget to determine if a budget amendment is needed before the end of the fiscal year. So if a budget amendment is needed, or if we wanted to do any transfers across funds, we would do that in May, definitely before June. And then June, we wrap up the fiscal year, prep all of the reports for our annual audit that takes place in the summer. It's a really quick snapshot of the financial rhythm of a school district. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kraft. I am very impressed with the graphics.
Oh. Word, it's amazing.
Well done.
Thanks.
Dr. Lind, our district motto.
Okay, we voted for a district motto for next year.
And who's we?
The staff. We would be the staff. So each year, not every year, but lately we've been picking a district motto, and this year we do it a little bit different every year. So we had a list of 6 and we said, okay, staff, vote on your top choice. So the top choice was every student matters, every day counts. It's not an unfamiliar one in the school world. A lot of districts we've had every student every day has been one. A lot of school districts use, and we added every student matters, every day counts to try and get our work and focus on what we're trying to accomplish next year, where we're looking at every student and looking at every student and how they matter, and increasing that sense of belonging, which has been part of the vision for a long time. And then every day counts to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to help those students every day. So I think it's a great motto, and it's going to be a nice touch point to help us remember why we're doing it.
What's it replacing?
What was this year? The elementary had team together, everyone achieves more. Did middle school have one this year? What was yours?
Well, you put me on the spot. It's not gonna be every day.
Every other kid, every other day?
How about let's get our kids to count? Show all our kids count. 1, 2, 3.
I'm getting there. Be kind and be responsible.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Be kind, be responsible,
Be beautiful.
be mindful.
Yeah, it was.
And then students do an art competition based on.
We
the
have
motto?
had them do an art competition. I don't know if we're doing that
That's
this
the
year.
previous years we've done that. Yeah.
Again, tried something different every year for fun, and sometimes things happen where school happens. Gets away from us and we don't have those opportunities, but that's what we're going for next year
Sounds good.
as a district altogether.
Excellent.
Yes.
Anything on motto?
I like it.
I like it. I like it.
Would you like to continue with instructional and professional developmental focus on universal design for learning?
Sure. So we are gonna have a lot of conversations, and you're gonna hear a lot about universal design for learning. I hope you hear a lot about universal design for learning. And what universal design for learning means. I'm going to pull up something that has a better summary of it, using AI to create the summary. Can't beat it. Universal design for learning is a framework for designing learning experiences that are accessible and engaging for all students, regardless of their individual needs and abilities. It focuses on creating flexible learning environments and materials that provide multiple means of engagement, representation, and expression. So what we're trying to accomplish with that is our tier 1 instruction. We talked about, okay, what's the most important next step to help our kids learn more? Every student learn more. Well, that's in our tier 1. That's where every student gets is tier 1 instruction. Classroom core instruction. Let's make that the best that we do. Well, what's going to help us do that for all of our kids? UDL is one of that. It's a framework and a mindset to look at every kid, make sure that we're giving every student what they need, make sure we're connecting with every student, et cetera, and how to do that, how to design lessons that don't drive teachers crazy. So one way to think about it is if we're trying to differentiate for every student, get every student what they need, the teacher becomes a cook, a short order cook that's going to prepare something for that student what they need, and prepare something different for that student what they need, and prepare something different for that student what they need. And it becomes a little bit overwhelming. Whereas if we have a different mindset of looking at our kids and prepare a general, more of a buffet to have access for kids to take what they need when they need it. It's just a little bit of a difference in a mindset shift, and we're learning about it, and I'll be frank. About 6 months ago, I didn't even know what UDL was. Now I'm learning a lot about UDL. So we're doing book study as the administrative team is doing a book study together with the instructional coaches. Teachers are doing the book study. Starting next year on it. Our professional development will be centered around this University Design for Learning. Next year, starting August 19th, that'd be our second day of in service when we get back. That'll be a full day of instruction, and teachers will get practice on designing lessons using this framework, this mindset. And you can Google it, and there's all kinds of information on it. It's interesting, and I'm hoping it's going to improve our instruction. That's the goal. Improve our instruction and improve our outcomes.
Let me ask a question on that. So when you say a teacher's making the short order for
Yeah.
what these kids need.
Yeah.
This one needs something different, this one needs something, this one needs something different. We're not saying we're gonna live with the outcomes of those needs, right? They're all still striving for a particular bar, no matter what their needs are. They're still trying to get to a certain standard, right? You follow what I'm saying? We're
Yeah,
not
that's
lowering
a
the
great
standards for
discussion.
some because they have more need, you follow what I'm saying? We're still trying to reach a certain grade level standard for everyone. Do you follow my question?
Yes, I do. That's a tough question to answer directly. Let me ask and see if I'm getting it, because not every student is going to hit a particular grade level standard in that year. They might get it. Everybody has a different rate of growth, and we all have different learning abilities. But we want every student to grow. So our goals are based on the rate of learning. We want to accelerate the rate of learning for every student. So we want every student to be challenged where they're at. Take them from wherever they're at and move them forward. That's the goal. Hopefully, for those that are further behind, we move them more than a year. In a year's time, we will never really catch up. And some students won't. I mean, there's students with that, or they won't in the same ways that other students will. Keeping in mind that some of our grade level standards are pretty narrow.
Yeah.
As many as there are, not everybody's going to need to calculate the Pythagorean theorem by the time they leave 8th grade. That's not where everybody's going to be. So the
Also,
reality is,
just to clarify, the current instruction is not getting them there either, right? I mean, the outcomes are the outcomes, right? The goal here is to improve the outcomes. Right? We're not currently getting
Overall.
every student to the exact same level every year anyway, right? We're looking to improve where they're at. And if I understood what you're saying correctly, the goal here would be to improve our ability to deliver instruction, thus improving the outcomes for those students. So I would assume in a perfect world, if this works as intended, the students who would have gotten wherever they would have gotten in the current system should get further. That's the goal, right? The goal is to improve those
Yes.
outcomes.
and more people would go over that bar, hopefully.
Right, and then we also have the accelerated learners program to help them when they get past that course.
Well, some kids start above the bar.
Right, that's true as well. I totally agree.
But the goals remain the same, which is growth, right?
Growth. That's why we do growth, because it impacts every student. We want every student to grow.
So it's the same curriculum, it's just a different way of teaching the curriculum, sort of, my understanding.
Yes,
The way I envision it in my mind is, you design an activity, or, you have a packet or a paper that needs doing. But some people you might spend a little extra time on, they might accept bullet points instead of full sentences. A similar activity that they can all do and follow the same instructions, but just the teacher doesn't need it to be, the answer doesn't need to look exactly the same from everyone. That's kind of what I picture.
Some of it, yeah, it's. Yeah, even more broader than that. So it's accessing kids where they're at. So if there's trying to think, I'm thinking of parts of different examples all at the same time, so.
I mean, the challenge here is obviously this puts additional burden on the teachers. And your goal that you were saying was to reduce that additional burden as much as we can
Yes,
by creating a pool of these dynamic lessons that they can pull from rather than putting the onus on every teacher. to
no,
get there.
that's not what it would be.
Okay,
That would be,
so you're looking at for the teachers to create that pool of resources.
um. Not necessarily a pool of resources, it's a different framework, so you're looking at, okay, so whatever the standard is. Caleb needs to write a topic sentence, that's our grade level standard in third grade, let's say. Write a topic sentence. Well, first he has to know what a topic sentence. Now, there's students who may not know how to write. But can they learn what a topic sentence is? Maybe they're speaking it, so technology comes into play. They can speak it, they can use different devices, different ways to access that learning through that. Or they're going to do, some kids will do it with a friend, some kids don't like to do it with a friend. Giving different kids opportunities to learn how to write a topic sentence in different ways would be one way to look at it.
Yeah, I think
And
the
that's an
only-
oversimplified.
I think the only potential danger I would see, which I think is in line with your thought process, is that. So long as the measurement of those outcomes don't show those two things to be the equivalent, right? To have reached the equivalent mark, right? Being able to speak a topic sentence, for example, is different than being able to write one in some capacity, right? If those are passed along as the
Depends
student
on-
has completed that objective, they're gonna find themselves further behind in the following year than they were this year.
So then it would
That'd
be,
my concern.
right, it depends on the outcome that you're looking for.
Right,
The outcome is understanding what a topic sentence is and be able to create a.
right,
topic
and if
sentence.
that's the outcome, I agree.
If that's the outcome, then that's what those are great points, and that's the discussion that gets tricky. Those discussions get deep and confusing sometimes. But helping us be clear on what are we trying to teach kids and what are they doing in that time in the classroom? What is the outcome that we're trying to get them to do? And it might be different for every student.
And just as a general question, do you foresee any concerns trying to fit the mold of what we'd be doing here with UDL to what the state standards are gonna be measuring and how we're measured against those standards? Like, we may be doing a better job of, objectively of how these students are progressing, but if that's not shown in test scores at the state level, right, that looks worse even if it's better, right?
Maybe, but I hope not.
I hope not as well. I just don't know if that's something
I
that,
believe-
I assume that's part of the consideration we're making as we venture into it, right?
Yes, the state standards that are measured by the Illinois Assessment for Readiness, it's a good assessment of those standards. And we want more children meeting those standards than we currently do. So our growth is still.
And we would see this as a vehicle for getting there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when it's not like a product that's being sold to us, it's academic development of a way to teach.
Yeah,
Essentially,
yeah.
yeah, I think that.
Right,
that's-
it's a shift in methodology,
Curriculum.
not in curriculum
Yep.
necessarily.
Yep.
And
And we're gonna learn more about it.
Just out of
more articulate
curiosity.
Next year.
how do the teachers feel about this shift?
At this point in the year, I think the teachers are overwhelmed with anything that we're talking about.
So as we know, any successful initiative. It needs teacher buy-in and it needs teacher training. And so you talked about how they would be doing a book study.
Mhm.
What else is gonna happen to prepare the teachers to do BDL?
So we have 3 coaches coming in from True North, which is another educational cooperative. Who specialize in UDL and working with districts. They're coming in for full day in service on the 19th, which is the second day back. So then we have our instructional coaches who will also be available during the school year for follow-ups. We have early dismissals planned, not everyone, because we have other things planned. So those are once a month where we can revisit. And we have October 10th planned as a revisit, so it's trying it, we're gonna start slow. We said, there's no pressure, we're not just going, hey, everybody has to do UDL. Let's start with a couple lessons. And then let's move forward, see if it works, see what you think. Is this something that we want to, well, is this something we can broaden, and how quickly we can broaden the reach? And then revisit on October 10th, how's it going? The same team from True North.
It's not sending anyone to like workshops, conferences outside of the district for that.
That would be optional per person. So we are also trying to model the UDL concept with our teaching staff, because every teacher is going to come at a different entry rate. Some are already doing this. Some teachers are successfully doing this to some degree, and we can always get better and improve. Some have no idea what this is, and some people are just trying to hang on by a thread. So there's different options for instruction that are available. So in our district, as I shared with teaching staff last week, we invest about $750,000 a year in professional development for staff for instruction. And that's counting the 3.5 institute days, because the first day, there's half of the day is a little bit of instruction, you're welcome back. And then that evening is supply drop off, so that I don't count the supply drop off time as instruction. But I count those, and that's about $55,000 in teacher salaries, not counting administration, other salaries that the district's investing in that time. Then there's the 8.5 to 2 hours of early releases that are for professional development. So I kind of calculated that out. And then there's workshops. Every teacher has a workshop budget where they have $500 that can go to any workshop that they would like. There's tuition reimbursement. So if they're interested in taking a course on teaching practices, which they should be, and many do, there's course reimbursement. So that counts as professional development. There is then the in-district trainings. There's the coaches that we invest in, and I have another one on that. But so there's a lot of different ways that teachers can access this learning in addition to their peers across the hall. So, oh yeah.
I know I asked this question about everything, but how does this translate into the high school? Are the high school teachers using this sort of stuff too, or is this really a K-8 thing?
No, this is a K-12 idea.
Are the high schools utilizing?
They have, I don't know. Adam, you were gonna say
Yeah, I was just
something?
gonna, so I don't know, taking some courses recently, I've been scared. Hold on, just taking the courses. Graduate level courses that I can on the site, even just the most recent, you guys have taken a course lately, even just the most recent coursework out there, UDL is woven to typically any educational course. It's just a different, it's kind of the way of planning lessons for you. So it's not something that we're just adopting, that's just not shared by districts. Yeah, educators across the United States. It's just a different way of lessons.
I'm hoping it's not gonna be stressful and intense for teachers, and I hope they can find some value on it, in it, and our kids' experience too. I really think we need to figure out how to find the joy in education again, and really difficult. Education is really tough. It's hard to talk about it this time of the year. It's really tired, but if we don't figure out how to do it better so that our teachers and paraprofessionals can really love teaching again, who's gonna go into teaching if we're just feels like we're beating a head against the wall every day, all day? And it's not that way, but there's times in the year where it feels like that. Moments in the day feels like that, and it's tough, so. Anything that, any opportunities that can infuse a little bit more of that. Joy and help teachers interact and maybe take a little bit of the pressure off for me, but let's try it. We've got to figure this out somehow. To keep our teachers. Our current teachers in the business and our young people who want to be teachers. Influence them to go into the business. That's,
Reducing class size might help.
I don't know. I don't think that's it.
We need to build more classrooms then.
I don't think that doesn't have any research correlation on that. There's definitely a flexion point there, but. It's more than that.
Well, I don't think we're gonna be facing increased class sizes anytime soon. Right?
Increased,
Yeah, we're not gonna be facing.
I think they're gonna go up before they go down.
Oh, we had less coming in next year.
Oh, across the grade level?
Yeah,
No, about the same. In kindergarten. Our overall enrollment's gonna be pretty steady, and it's held steady for 4 years, 5 years now. But class size itself, the individual class size, now they're gonna creep up. Funding is. We'll talk about that another day.
yeah.
All right, good on the universal design learning. Perfect. Overview of starting right training on June 9th. Quick brief on it. Well, it's a closed session meeting where we do training for new board members and kind of we set our agreement that we have for the board members, how we behave, how we interact. And you know that we hold ourselves accountable because there's there really is nobody other than the voters who can kick us out every couple of years, so we need to be mature and do things responsibly. And we're responsible for ourselves.
Yep.
Cool. Summer activities or questions on that?
So I guess, so that meeting's here like a regular.
Yeah,
meeting,
yeah,
and
so
it's
it'll be
just
here,
us.
but yeah,
Okay.
just, and the trainer from IASB, will come in and facilitate. Yeah.
Gotcha, okay.
Yep.
Regular time.
No,
Yeah, a little, because, then we'll share a meal together.
Yeah.
What time is it?
6 p.m.
6.
but the dinner will be served at 5:30 early. Some people like to eat.
I don't know, we're getting this year, but last couple of years, we all had lobster, but I think that's gonna stop this year.
I mean, I got filet mignon last year, so I don't know.
Maybe this Buona in Gurnee will be open by then.
I think it will.
That's June 9th?
June 9th.
Yes.
That's June 9th, and then, yes,
Monday.
it's earlier. And it will be at the middle school, so that leads right into my next summer activities. This summer, we have a lot of meetings in the schools as we're trying to, well, a lot going on in this room especially. We're getting new carpet in this room. So all of the books and all the furniture has to go out before they can carpet. So starting in next week ish, start pulling books off the shelf, putting them in boxes, putting them away until that project is done. And then this will be carpeted in June. So we won't be able to meet this area at all in June. So we'll meet at the middle school, in the media center at the middle school. Or you all be familiar with that? Yeah. Many times. So we'll be in the media center over there.
Starting in June.
Start for the 2 June meetings.
Okay, but next week we're still here.
Next week, we're still here. Yep.
And
And we have a
returning
meeting
here
right
after
now.
that? We're returning here after that?
That is something that we can choose.
Okay.
So in previous iterations of the board, they have alternated schools. Once upon a time, somebody decided to keep them all at one school for convenience sake, but sometimes that can lead of the image that we're only focused on the elementary school. If we want to keep it, that's something we can add to discussion at some time in the future, but yes, it doesn't always need to be here.
We can do a few meetings there and see what we like.
There we go. Yeah, after June, we'll circle back. All right, Summer activities, yep, you're done, those are
That was it.
perfect. Future agenda items, again, we'll approve the lease for the cab, if we approve, it'll be on the. agenda for approval, salary, treasurer's bond, all the things we talked about. The only thing we haven't talked about was policy updates. Which are kind of just renew things every year based on new footnotes, and or is there something more to?
Yep, we'll be ready with a whole new batch at the next meeting. So we'll post them at the next meeting because we don't have a June meeting to be approved at the June regular meeting. So we'll go regular to regular instead of kind of regular.
Perfect.
And there's a bunch of them queued up, ready to go.
Are these the policy ones we've already been looking at?
Mhm.
Okay.
Who's our policy people?
So I wanted to give them at least a week ahead of time before they go public. They want to,
The changes were small.
it wasn't. I haven't gone through them all yet, but. So far, just footnotes and such.
And is there anything else you would like to report on?
I don't think so.
Uh-huh.
You are, the graduation is May. I'm sorry, Jake.
27th,
May 27th.
day after Memorial Day.
You are all invited. You don't have to come. It's okay. Usually the board president hands out diplomas. So that would be great if you're there to hand out diplomas.
I can make it work.
Okay. And the rest of the board is acknowledged, but there's no special seating or you don't have to sit on the stage.
Some
There's
of
not
us have
room.
students graduating, so we have to be.
You have to do that.
So do I?
Is it
Oh, that's right.
middle school?
You'll be-
Is it at the middle school?
It's at the middle school outside.
Still doing it.
Along that line.
Still doing it.
Wednesday, the day after is the alternate date if there's. The weather is not cooperating. Tuesday.
I didn't ask, but I'm going to, because I have a graduate this year. We're only allowed 6 tickets. Is there a time? After a certain period of time, we can request more, or is that pretty much the strict?
6 tickets was what? The number we had. I
Pick
mean,
your favorite.
I mean, like, let's say after a certain period of time, we know people didn't request 6. Or is just everybody just getting 6?
so there was a time we would actually hand out physical tickets when it was held indoors, and people were coming in one at a time. But now we just do a placard on a windshield, since that you get one vehicle in. Because of parking.
So the only
So,
reason it's 6 is
if you
because of
were-
parking.
That is one of the reasons. It's also seat. There's also chairs. We will run out of chairs if people bring settings.
Okay. But we didn't sign up for X amount. We weren't asked to do that.
Correct.
So there would be no way to know if we had.
But there will be something.
Probably we should
We'll know
set the
if you bring
example of
more
not
than
breaking the
one
rules.
Yeah.
We'll turn you around if you bring more than one car.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we're
If you-
walking,
If you
so
walk, I would say the best thing to do would be to use 6 chairs, so that
Right.
other people that are bringing 6 guests get 6 chairs. And then if there's still more chairs left, then have your guests sit or bring a chair. Bring a bag. Set it up like we did.
Well, I'll be counting your seats.
Everyone's gonna count on your seats.
well, I'd hate to have them come and then they don't have a seat.
Hopefully they'll get a graduation 4 more years that they can go
That's
to.
right.
Yeah.
If he makes it through.
Just I'll let them figure out which one I want to attend.
All right, is there anything else you'd like to add to your business report?
Yes, just a quick update. We received the tax extension from the county. So in November, December, when we're working on the tax levy, that's the ask. That's what we're asking for property taxpayers to give us in property tax dollars. We give that number to the county. They come back in April, May with the actual amount that we will be receiving. So if you can pop open the business office report and go to page 2. We in December asked for just over 14.2 million. We asked for a little bit more than we anticipate getting. It's called ballooning the levy. It's to account for any unknown or new property in the district that we may not know about when we're doing the levy. The clerk came back a couple of weeks ago with the extension. What we will or should be getting in property taxes is $14,014,463. So just wanted to share that extension update. And then for any staff listening, the benefits open enrollment is May 21st through June 4th. And just an update today, we started one of our summer projects a month early, which is phenomenal. It's the camera installation, and that started today. It's going on right now after hours. It should be wrapped up possibly by the end of this month. And the other summer project that we will be working on, in addition to the carpet that Dr. Lynn mentioned, is redoing the West Gym floor, refinishing it at the gym. So that will be done in June as well. Oh, and the East Gym sound system that Epic graciously donated. Yeah, there's a lot going on this summer. One other thing I put in my board report too, if anyone is ever interested, at the bottom are any of the conferences and educational sessions I go to. If anyone ever wants the slide decks or information on the topics, I list them there. So if you're interested in learning more, just reach out and I can get you that information.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Any board reports to share?
I got to go to the teacher appreciation little banquet last week. That was really nice, and I love that all the administrators put together a little basket to raffle off. The teachers really seem to love that. And then after that, went to the Lake County Educator of the Year ceremony. We had some Milburn teachers that were nominated there as well, so that was really cool to see. Kind of wearing two hats being there, so that was interesting. But it's a great time of year to really thank our teachers, because they're digging deep right now, so to be able to show us some appreciation and love to them is, I know, it's always appreciated.
Excellent. Anything else? I attended the kindergarten concert last Friday. It was good, you know. They did Colors of the Rainbow. It was a nice narration by the teachers in between each little session. So it's not just the kids involved, but the parents then also getting to see the person who is shaping a lot of their child's lives. So that interaction is always positive. I stuck in at the end of the staff appreciation dinner. A lot of them were thanking me, but I'm like, well, why are you thanking me? No, it's like, no, this is for you. It's for your thanks. So very polite individuals we have here. And then I just popped over at the talent show rehearsal going on at the middle school. They're having some sound system issues, but very, very talented youngsters. They're practicing in the halls. Okay. Do I have a motion to go into closed session for the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, specific individuals or servers, independent contractors in a park, recreational, or educational setting, or specific volunteers of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee, a specific individual who serves as an independent contractor in a park, recreational, or educational setting, or a volunteer of the public body, or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. However, a meeting to consider an increase in compensation to a specific employee of a public body that is subject to the Local Government Wage Increase Transparency Act may not be closed and shall be open to the public and posted and held in accordance with Act 5 ILCS 120/2C1. Also, for collective negotiation matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary structures for one or more classes of employees, 5 ILCS 120/2C2. And the setting of a price of sale or lease of property owned by the public body, 5 ALCS 120/2C6. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
You have to.
Oh, voice
or, I mean,
vote.
Not voice.
I
vote.
apologize.
Roll
Roll call, please. Ms. Sully.
Okay, Jennifer Quigley,
Yes.
Chris Hamilton,
Yes.
Erica Peterson,
Yes.
Jillian Bell,
Yes.
John Ruggles,
Yes.
Brad Scott,
Yes.
and Lisa Booster.
All right, we will we'll close our open session, go to closed session. We'll stop our feed. We will take no action after we go back online